Men and women all over the globe are joining now for the best videos on the internet.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
And I'm doing my part too.
They're doing their part. Are you? Click the subscribe button now to become a member of the Action Pack. Would you like to know more?
Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Mike, and with me today is
Lloyd A. Green.
And this is Mike's After Action Reviews. Do you like drama? How about a little bit of science fiction? If you do, I think that we have found just the thing for you, because today we are doing the After Action interview for Reflections of L in Search of Self, written by none other than
Lloyd A. Green.
There you go. Okay, everybody, so today is a very special day because for the first time ever, we're doing our very first book review. Well, this is an interview. It's not exactly like my normal reviews, but this is the first time that we've done anything with a book. And we are just so fortunate to have Lloyd A. Green. Actually, Lloyd, before we really jump into this thing, do you want to give yourself a plug? Tell everybody where to find you. Tell us just a little bit about yourself.
Thank you so much. Okay, thank you, Mike. My basic website is endlessperceptions.com, but I run a few other websites. My book website is lloydagreen.com, and I love my old high school, and it's been a little while since I graduated, but I still love my old high school, and that would be mycastletreasures.com. And that's anything about me and my life and my stuff. Everything else is, if you go to endlessperceptions.com, that will connect you to all of those things, from YouTube to old memories to videos, video reviews of movies, book reviews, book trailers, endless stuff. It's endless perceptions of me.
All right, awesome, excellent. So, jumping in here with so this is Reflection of L in Search of Self. So I have a paperback which Lloyd so graciously sent me, and I really do appreciate that. When I told you that I'm a paperback guy, because I'll just tell you guys for the audience, Lloyd said, "Do you prefer paperback, Kindle, or whatever?" And I said, "Honestly, I'm a paperback guy." I almost was going to message you back and be like, "But you don't want to send me a paperback. You can just send me the thing for stuff." But he sent me the paperback anyway, so I really appreciate that. I don't know. In my mind, I was just thinking like, you don't want to send me a paperback. I don't know, like whatever.
No, I'm old school also. I mean, with the convenience of being able to, run through a tablet is one thing, but having that book physically and walking around with it and sitting in the park, it's like, well, I didn't recharge my Kindle or whatever to be able to. I mean, it's nice to be able to just open it and read it.
Yeah, my thing is I actually like the feel of paper. Like, I actually like to be able to turn the pages and stuff, so. But, all right, anyway, so let's jump in here. So I'm going to start off by reading a summary here of the book. So this, again, Reflections of L in Search of Self. You can find it on Amazon. The little summary that I'm going to read here is from Amazon. On Amazon, it is $2.99 for Kindle and $7.99 paperback as of today, which is the 6th of April. This is the summary here. So Dylan lives with perpetual self-doubt as he grows up in a newly built housing community in Harlem, New York. His friends seem confident and untroubled when dealing with life, but Dylan's careful disposition is only holding him back. Idle curiosity driven by darker emotions causes Dylan to release the 7 deadly sins from his father's clothing trunk. Forever changing his peaceful world. Dylan becomes an increasingly comfortable player in the dance hall of life as the lies and deceit pile up. Through reckless bouts with assorted girlfriends, he eventually falls for the cheerful and confident Kelly. Dylan feels she could be the one, but the demons that haunt him think otherwise. So, and then also just at the bottom here it says, Reflection of Isle in Search of Self, the fictionalized autobiography of the author's quest to understand life and love. Author being Lloyd A. Green. So just to let everybody know, so this was, publisher, let me see, Create Space Independent Publishing Platform.
That's the old one that's stuck on there, but that's okay.
Oh, okay, so what is the, yeah.
Endless Perceptions is the publishing platform. Actually, I mean, it's my own platform.
Okay, excellent. There you go. Ballin' in the book world, publishing your own books. And then the paperback copy is 282 pages. It also gives the weight. It's 10.6 ounces. So if you're interested in that.
In case it's too heavy to carry around, yeah.
Yeah. Just so if you need to know, if you can't carry more than 10 ounces, this book isn't for you. Okay, so then let's jump into this. So let's start off with the kind of the plot, the story. Also, just real quick as we look at this, I love your cover art. I actually do like some of the stuff that you do. I say that in a way like you wouldn't normally like it. No, I'm just saying I like your book cover. It looks really good. And I notice when I look at this guy looks like you. Can I just ask you, is that you? Like, are you the model?
In the former book cover, it was. In this particular silhouetted book cover, no.
Okay.
I converted some things. I photoshopped some things on the silhouette to look more similar to me, but that's not it.
All right. And then who is this nice looking young lady here?
Is she's someone who just got hired to pose for something.
Oh, okay. No. But I mean, like, she's one of the characters in the book?
You know what? No. Yes.
Okay, I was just saying.
Yes, I'm trying not to give away certain things.
Sure. Perfect. No big spoilers.
Then a character in the book, yes.
Okay. Okay, so then let's like I said, let's get into the summary here. So give us a good summary. So I started reading. I'm at the point where I'm at in the book. It's basically it's been a collection of short stories from your childhood, like vignettes. And then moving forward, I understand there's some science fiction stuff going on. Yeah, give us your own little what's up with the book.
Okay. Like you had read in the summary, it starts out, I started out as a child, and the expectation, as I did not understand how blessed, how lucky, how whatever I was in coming up, and everything was just very comfortable for me. It came easy for me in that it wasn't that I was sheltered. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I wasn't given, like, thrown out in the street and said, yeah, do everything that you want. But in terms of certain liberal ideas or whatever, I was allowed to seek an understanding of my surroundings and grow from there. Basically, the book goes from me being a young child and understanding and feeling so safe in my surroundings. And one of the main points, to me anyway, is understanding that I found out later on, having fathers around in the situation was a strange thing in my neighborhood and the people I ran with. When I say ran with, I mean my outer relationships, because in terms of my mother and father, my relatives directly, it's like I kept seeing husband, wife, kids, husband, wife, kids. And it's like, it wasn't until I was a teenager and going out and just hanging with people and understanding their situations that I realized that there's no fathers here. There's hardly any. There's a whole bunch of strong women who are running things, but it's like, so I started understanding that I was very blessed in that regard. At the same time, what I started understanding is that being Mr. Nice Guy, being, when I say good, okay, there's a stereotype about nice people and good people that you don't want to fall into the trap of being a nerd, but you are. And
Yeah.
I have always been a nerd, and I'm very proud nerd. Okay, but at the same time, all that stuff about being apprehensive about around girls, asking them out on dates, and all that stuff, it tends to slow you down. You have all these other imaginative thoughts, but when it comes to that, it's just a slow-moving train. At the same time, I found that I had a big enough ego that I wanted to know the other side desperately and get to know things. I found out that my goodness is a weakness and a curse and a blessing at the same time.
Yeah.
In giving people the benefit of the doubt, and you can only do that but so much, even yourself. So basically, the book is about me growing through this and trying to find the love of my life, just like I felt my parents found their love, the love of my life, and the ups and downs, and me learning to be deceitful at times, but there's a tinge of the possibility that it might not just be me that has the driving force. There's something else going on.
Okay.
And I keep referring to it in the book.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, no, that's really great. And I'll tell you, so I'm going to keep like holding this up because I really actually do like this book cover a lot. And it's the book, so it's nice to have. It's below me too, but just go check it out there. You can see where my green screen is like making it all discolored. So I'm going to tell you, so like I said, I've read, I'm a very slow reader. I got this book, I'm at page 31, and I actually have been reading it quite a bit, like, you know, just sitting down in between taking care of my kids and stuff. And I'm going to finish this because I'll tell you what, the writing here, just the way that it's written and the way that you talk, and the thing is that I've heard your voice. So now when I'm reading this, I hear you speaking to me. Like I hear your voice as I'm, you know, I try to imagine what, you know, I don't know. Have you ever read somebody's book who you also know what their voice sounds like, and then it's like you're listening to them? Yeah.
Yes.
And you have a great voice to just listen to you tell stories about your life. So, but I'm going to tell you, so I came from a broken home, and I didn't have, I lived with my father sometimes, I lived with my mother sometimes. My mother has all kinds of problems. My father actually is great, but he's very emotionally detached. Very stereotypical. He's in the army. He's very stereotypical, like soldier, and taught me so much great stuff, but there was like an emotional detachment. So he wasn't always the most accessible. And just reading some of these stories actually really touched my heart. Like hearing about, because I'll tell you the truth, it's really weird. Maybe this is just me personally, but I don't very often hear about normal stories of normal people's lives just being normal. It's always, well, let me tell you about this crazy thing, or let me tell you about how I was, I don't know, abused, or how my father was a drunk and terrible to me. But this is nice to just sit down and read, and the way it's written is really good. So,
well, let me tell you again, with the advantages and disadvantages of the wholesome home, in that, of course, I mean, I'm still feeling always the day I die, I'll be very blessed with the type of family that I had. I had two parents that would give me within reason what I needed and what I wanted, and they gave me a foundation that I knew that I would go run and go get it myself if I really wanted something. And it's like, I always thought that was the norm, okay, with everyone. And the thing is, in taking that for granted, it's or being blessed with it or whatever is one thing, but it's when you, how am I trying to say this? You don't learn enough from being in that normal, straight, also, there's no such thing as normal, first of all,
right.
But being in that totally loving family, it's wonderful, but that's not all you need. The thing about street smarts, the thing about getting out there on your own and just learning and the hard knocks and all that stuff, you need that.
Yeah,
we all need that stuff. And I wasn't in the beginning. I wasn't getting it. It's like I didn't know that you might not be able to. Okay, like one of the premises of the book is that my mother and my father, they stayed together about 40 years until the day my father passed. And then it's like, okay, and they one wedding, one marriage, that's it. They had me and my brother, that's it. That's what you do. And it's like I always thought it was easy.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And when I place myself in the position of not just meeting girls but relationships, then suddenly I realize this is rocky. Okay, there's jealousy. There's whether or not I'm being told the truth. There's whether or not I want to tell the truth at different times, and then do I want this to go long? This should go the long one. This is the love of my life. Why isn't this person understanding they're the love of my life and they're just saying, okay, there's nobody else. Age 17, there's nobody else. But that's ridiculous.
Yeah. So I would just tell people like about the book. It does have a little bit of a like it's not like a fast pace, which is not. I mean, it's sometimes there's books that are a little slower. Sometimes there's books that are really fast paced with action and a lot of stuff happening. It's not like it's so slow. That's not what I'm trying to say. It's not like a movie where the movie drags on and drags on. I'm saying like this is just a nice meandering pace where it's like taking a walk through the park and you're learning about Lloyd's childhood, which is awesome. And I really am enjoying it. I don't know. This might be one of those books that I read multiple times. But I will tell you, just kind of commenting on what you're saying, like I kind of grew up the opposite way where a lot of time I was by myself even at a very young age. Like my son is 4. I'm imagining like maybe 5 or 6, I'm making my own dinner, but I did grow up I think that made me a little meek. Like you might consider me to be someone who is kind of that very nice. I don't like to necessarily speak out of turn, and I'm not always the loudest. And dealing with certain situations or the most authoritative with what I want. And I will tell you that even coming from a completely different way of living, I will tell you, I totally agree with you because even now, I was talking to you earlier just before we started the video, I'm dealing with a situation now where it's like, maybe if I was a little bit more, hey, this is right, this is wrong, this is what's got to happen, maybe I wouldn't be dealing with certain things that I'm dealing with that are headaches.
So something, the nice person syndrome has nothing to do, well, let me not talk in absolutes. It has less to do with your, whether you do have the parents there, whether you do have the attentiveness or whatever. We all are born with a certain spirit and disposition. Yeah. And if the way we react and act out or whatever with things, when we're presented with a situation, you're standing on the train platform and somebody bumps into you hard, and some people feel like they should say, "Oh, I'm sorry," after they've been bumped into, and then the other side of the coin, somebody might turn around and give all kinds of language to that person and or want to go after that person, and we can blame it on other situations, but there's an internal thing that goes on in us, an internal struggle that we're born with, that we start with, and how we act and react to having and not having. Yeah. And that's why I say sometimes when you have, it's a good thing, but then you get used to have, you feel like it's supposed to be that way, or if you don't have, and then you say, okay, well, how come I don't have? But then you fight harder to get there. Then other people admire you because of blah blah blah. It's also personally, we're also complicated, and what I am proud of you in that you make. I mean, the amount of the videos and stuff that you, according to your interests, that you go out. I wish I could be as prolific as the way you are, and they just keep pushing with it because you're invested.
I do appreciate it. Yeah,
and it's that I enjoy your stuff, and I'm even though it might not, I don't always make the comments there, but I'm always hopping around with your work with it. It's you'll see my likes.
I appreciate it. No, I really do appreciate that. Okay, so then. Kind of switching gears, we can sit and talk about that all day. Talk about each other all day. Here we go. But switching gears, so Actually, now as I'm sitting here talking to you, I'm thinking of Shawshank Redemption. Morgan Freeman said, if I could meet the man that I was back then, if I could talk to that boy, I'd shake him, is what he says. Yeah, about when they go to the parole board. You've seen the movie, right? Shawshank Redemption?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So for yourself, this is obviously at least slightly fictionalized version of yourself. Let's talk about Dylan. Tell us about so with movies we usually go, plot, and then we go into characters and acting. Because this is a book, we're just going to say tell us about Dylan, tell us about the character here.
Dylan at first he seemed, in the early part of his life, his childhood, he's very comfortable with the fact that in running over to relatives' houses or going out with friends, it's not even just a mother and a father backup, but after that he's always got his older brother, about a year and a half older, as a backup. And it's like the world is safe, and from the time that's in the book in terms of traumatic situations, I say doggone it, there's been one or two things that happened in my life, but it's as if this little angel is sitting here on my shoulder and said, well, he can't go here, he can't go there, because this is going to happen. Because I know there's all kind of circumstances of things that happen in life, but it's as if when I decided that I wanted to do something and I wanted to move back and forth, for example, the character finds that he loves movies to death. He hemorrhages movies, okay? And he discovers the Times Square area and the part of Harlem that he lives in, around 114th Street in Lenox. And he was always on the train every weekend downtown in the Times Square area, variety of different movies. You could look at it as a way of escapism or not dealing with life on a certain level. But after a while, when a person enjoys something, you got to say to yourself, the heck with what you think. This is what I enjoy. Yeah. And so I knew that, and then the character, after learning so much about life with in the movies, in going out, and the character finds going out on dates and taking chances with females, which is very important to him, that he finds his significant other. But the one underlying thing that happens, like a third of the way through the book, in around puberty, is that something symbolic. There's a basis for the 7 deadly sins, in that there's this trunk that his father has, that deceitfully he finally was able to open the trunk, and all of these shadows and one thing in particular, a fly, comes out of the box, and he's thought it was his eyes playing tricks on him or such. On one level, it's symbolic of, in terms of lust and gluttony and wrath and all those things, each one of those shadows. But on another level, they're real. That's the only thing we're giving up about the book. Okay. And, because the way this particular book, I'm not saying anything about the ending, no spoilers, but it's more focused on the character of Lloyd and of Dylan, and how those entities affect him, and or life affects him, and it's a coming of age book, that you can find yourself on one level of understanding, and then you're on the total end of another way of seeing things with growth by the time the end of the book, by age 23. And in terms of my looking back on that character, that guy in that book, that first of all, when it says reflections of L represents honestly Superman. Okay, that's my own bloated thing in terms of my own ego at the time. It had always represented, that was in my mind, always doing good, superpowers, run around helping people in general. Before all the other superheroes, there was him. And when I say reflections of L, that's egotistical way of, first of all, self, and then the rest I'm searching.
If I was going to write a book, my name would be Steve, for Steve Rogers, because if you can be anybody, be a superhero.
Hold on. I was so fascinated with that character. I really wish they'd bring him back, but that's another. I mean, in the movies.
Yeah.
But in essence, that's what the book is about. It's about whatever kind of my finding out that it's wonderful to have all of these blessings, but the blessings ain't going to get you nowhere long term. You've got to take yourself wherever long term, invest in what you believe in, and build on that, and see what happens.
Okay. Actually, I was going to ask you, because that was going to be part of what I was going to ask you, is what do you want the book to tell people? And I think that basically sums it up. That's really great. Honestly, you don't hear that very much anymore from people. Nowadays,
I mean, in this crazy world we live in right now, where people think, I'm not going to get political, but people think they have the answer. And you say, okay, I look at this side of the coin, and that's it. I have read this book. I'm part of this experience, and I understand now. But what you're basically doing is giving up your free thoughts and whatever, and your imagination, whatever, to someone else, to
be part, to be like part of a group.
Yeah, you need, and the importance and the security in that group is a wonderful thing. But there's whether you like it or not. No matter, that group can represent like 95% of who you are, which is a big chunk. But after a while, that 5%, when that group is saying to you, you shouldn't do that. That's not right. I'm sorry. No, that doesn't fit in. That little 5% is going to egg at you, is that it's not right. It's not right. It's not right. And then if you ever give yourself the opportunity to explore that 5%, it might wind up turning into a 75% of your personality. But or you can cloister yourself and your personality and just say, this is there is no such thing as this is my path. Whether you are born poor, whether you're born rich, it's like, I got a silver spoon. My parents can give me everything, and all that. Yeah. I have seen so much suicidal ideation and all this stuff from these people that are rich. You would think they've got a wonderful life. Their life is meant for them. They could be a lawyer, a doctor easily. Daddy's paying the bill. It doesn't matter. Mommy's paying the bill. But it's never that simple. And that's what I try to explore in the book, that no matter how much I thought I had a handle on things, I had to learn a lot more. And the last thing about that is that guy in that book, I don't know him anymore. He's my foundation, but I'm not. that whoever that Dylan person is, that's not me, because there's been more growth since then.
Yeah, awesome. So excellent. So basically, this is not, and it's what I've experienced as well. This is almost like. Okay, sorry about that. We had to cut because we had a little issue with the video. That's cool, though. But I was just saying, I don't want to be inappropriate, but I think this is like reading parables from the Bible. And, no insult to you, but as both of us being Christians, we understand that Jesus maybe had a little bit more to say than either of us. But at the same time, you read this and it's like, I woke up this morning, I went out into the kitchen, the floor wasn't clean, I didn't clean the floor, my wife came out, yelled at me, we had a fight. What is that? What story is that? Well, there's some things that you can get from that. Like maybe, hey, if you see something needs to be done, help your wife out. Clean the kitchen floor. I don't know. Just a little story that maybe you can divine something from, but it's not exactly spelling it out to you. Yeah.
Well, trust me, there are some, I guess some might consider them inappropriate, but there are some parts in the book that have more meat to their bones, okay? Yeah. Growing up as someone getting towards 23, and I've had some experiences, and you will find them in the book as you're reading. And if it makes you wince or you want to close your eyes as you're reading, that's okay too. But yeah, it's not as simple as oh boy, I got me a new job today. So this is what I'm going to do for the next 2 years. No, it's deeper than that. You'll see.
Yeah, yeah. No, and I really do appreciate that. So if you're looking for something that I think is written in a very, it's well, it's well written and it's written in a very inviting, accessible voice for you to read. I definitely recommend. I would say that I definitely recommend the book from what I've read so far, and then I'm actually very excited, especially as we talk and some of the things that I've looked over. I'm very excited to read more. So if there's not anything, I have a couple of things. So I know that I asked you. Usually, like I said, when we do movies, it's special features. It's the miscellaneous section. Is there anything that you want to say before we get into? I do want to read some comments about the book. But before we do that, I just want to ask you: is there anything else that you want to say about maybe your writing process, your inspiration, anything like that?
Oh goodness. I have been writing, and this is my first book, as a matter of fact. And I wrote this book back in 2011. And my writing process is that I've always liked writing, but I never thought about putting it down as a regular thing that I would call myself Lloyd A. Green writer. It really stemmed from the fact that I knew some people from back in high school. And I went through my experiences and we got disconnected. And then through Facebook and some other things with high school reunions, I wound up connecting up with one person in particular, and she lives over in Israel. And I'm trying to bring her up to speed somewhere between age, let me see, the last time I spoke to her was something like in my 22, 23. From age 23 to age 50, 55, something like that.
Okay.
And I'm trying to bring her up to speed. And it's like, instead of just talking to death, I would write in terms of, well, I got married here, I did this, we had some kids, and blah, 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 blah. And then I started telling her stories about it, not just the facts, but the meat of the emotional duress and blah, blah, blah. Just to because she was a close friend back in the day, and it's like I'm letting her know, this is me, and she was writing me back things also. But she would write me back something like 1 or 2 paragraphs. I'd write her back like 3 pages.
Yeah.
And after this back and forth, after the 5th or 6th time, she says, something, are you going to write a book or something? Because this sounds like a book. And suddenly it hit me. I said, do you think this is good enough to put into a book of some kind? So I started exploring it, and I got together with certain companies. I'm not going to give them any credit, but certain self-publishing companies. And in terms of them doing like 95% of the work, I would do I shouldn't say they're doing my writing, but in terms of when you pay people to put things together, to format, and the covers and all of those things. And then I found out later on that through Amazon in particular, I could create my own covers. I could format my own books. I could, if I needed to change something, I don't have to go through another party. I can change it directly. And it brought me to the point where I am now. I'm up to 8 books right now. And it's like I've done 3 books in terms of, there's a sequel to this book, which is called Reflections of Vel. And then there's a prequel to this book, which is called The Green Legacy. Okay. And then I've gotten 2 other science fiction books that I've written. And Castles on the Hill Secret and Beyond the Castle of the Hill, based on my high school, but it goes way beyond that in terms of technology and such. And but then I've got my 3. Well, I'm getting away from the story. Let me not.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
Let me go back.
Check out all of Lloyd's books. They're very good. I'll put up a link. You'll have it in the description down below in YouTube. So.
Thank you. Yeah, but basically with the writing, it just fascinated me more and more that people would want to hear what I had to say, and I just kept. Oh, Lord, in terms of my websites, writing through that and exploring my artistic side through not just my artwork, but also through my videos and such. And I'm having a lot of fun with my life in terms of at the point that I have the time to be able, it affords me to be able to indulge myself in I don't even call it hobbies anymore, but this is work.
Yeah.
There's just no such thing. I mean, you've got to systematically say, okay, these hours of the day, I'm going to get myself in this other room and just quietly put, and devote that time. You treat it like a job. You don't if you treat it like it's a hobby, I'll do it when I feel like it, or I don't feel like it. There'll be ups and downs, but all of this stuff is work. And I enjoy this thoroughly, and I enjoy sharing my stuff in my life here, and hopefully other people can learn.
Yeah, I'm sure. Hey, leave us, and I just want to say too, if you have, if you kind of identify with that, leave us comments in the comment section below. But I also just want to say, as a YouTuber, I've been going for 2.5 years now, coming up on the 3rd year, and that's basically kind of what happened to me. I had an inspiration I shouldn't even say that. There was a video game I liked. It was really great. It's considered one of the best rated, it actually on all of the, the review websites and stuff, it's one of the greatest video games ever made. And the sequel was terrible. And I said, I hate that sequel so bad, I'm going to tell everybody about it. And then people said, hey, I made the video, I put it up on YouTube, and I remember I just had this old plastic desk with the legs that folded out, and our table, and I just put it like that, and I sat in front of it, and you can still go watch that video. It's the Last of Us 2 video. And people liked it, and they said, do another one. And then they liked that one, and they said, do it again. And so I keep going, and it is work. And, but I will say, and I'll tell you guys as the audience, I did tell Lloyd this before we started the video, I actually am inspired quite a bit by the work that you've done. I mean, you're an author with books, like for real, and that's great to see. And like I said, reading it, it's not just some cheap fan fiction. Like, this is real. Like, this is a book. You are a Lloyd A. Green writer. That's awesome to see. And kind of learning of your story through the book, it's great to see where you've ended up. Yeah,
I decided that had to be. I felt like somewhere between my poor memory, which has nothing to do with my age, it has more to do with this is the way it's always been, in that it's that selective memory, that there are things that at a flash I can remember every detail. But someone says, don't you remember what happened 2 weeks ago when we met all of these people? And they said, Fred, Mary, Eugene. And I said, who? Oh, yeah, I remember them, but in terms of you're sitting here throwing out all these names, and they worked where, and their mother and father's name is what? And say, oh, okay, how do you remember all? But I know for a fact that if selectively, if it were to a level of importance, I shouldn't tell too much about myself that way, but a level of importance that for me to remember, I'd find a way to impress it on myself. But regardless, I wound up writing this book in particular because I had to need to put that stuff down. I read through it and I said, wow, yeah, that's right. That's right. It's not that I've forgotten it. Most of these things are important. There's a lot of stories I did not put in this book. I wouldn't dare put in this book.
Yeah.
It's a way of, I don't know, having something also to hand down to my kids and those that know me and are close to me, that yes, this is a part of me. This is an important part of me. These things, these ridiculous things or funny or daring things that I did. This is me here. You don't have to worry about me explaining it to you and tell you the same boring story over again. It is, you have it right there. You can read it on your own.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so great. So that's the writing process. That's a great way to be, basically just being genuine to yourself and writing it down. There you go. And so I just want to ask you, are all of your books autobiographical in nature, even if they're fictionalized? Slightly?
The second book is even more fictionalized, but the second book is definitely more along the lines of a memoir. It's in the second book is more real. It's more like this, but there's more of a taste of the supernatural. Let's put it that
Okay.
way.
Okay.
My the Green Legacy, as I do a prequel, because basically I'm doing a prequel to me. I was born at the beginning of this book. So if
Yep.
I'm doing a prequel to the book, it's kind of like, it's got to be a little bit of fantasy in there, but it starts in like the 1800s. And
Okay.
I won't get into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, next book review. Okay.
Okay.
So you get a choice. How we're gonna do? I decided basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna read 3 reviews. Okay. 2 good, 1 bad.
Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't even say necessarily bad. I'm looking at it right now. I wouldn't say that it's necessarily bad, but it's just, you'll see.
I
So-
appreciate it.
Yeah. So do you want to do the good or the bad first?
Do the bad first.
Okay, let's do the bad first. Okay, so this is so on Amazon they have their little reviews. Overall, the book is rated 3.8 out of 5.
Okay.
Which is a very solid score. This is what the bad review says. It says this. So this is 2 stars out of 5. So it says, I read this book because of the mention of Pandora's box in the description. However, nothing exciting or interesting ever happened. The story just follows a boy as he grows up. I found him a very unlikable character. While the writing... Now, this is good. While the writing was decent, I was never drawn into the story. It was a very boring and disappointing read for me.
Not for everybody.
Yeah. I was going to say... Actually, I'm going to say, like, what they're saying here... I fundamentally kind of... It's kind of like I understand that it's opinion and it's subjective, but I fundamentally disagree with it because of my own subjective opinion. Like, when it says the story just follows a boy as he grows up, they're interesting stories of a boy as he grows up, and there's something that you can learn from it. I don't have anything to say about being an unlikable character. I like the character. Decent writing, but it just seems like this person maybe... I don't think that this person is necessarily saying that there's something so objectively bad, but it just wasn't for them. So...
Mm-hmm. And
so
that's okay. When you get into writing, when you get into YouTube, when you get into anything that you're putting yourself out there for the public, to sit there and say, how... Because some people, and this is scary to me, some people, it's like, oh my God, they wrote that? I've got to find their email address. I've got to find out where they live. You know, and it's like, there's always going to be critics, no matter what you...
So just let me ask you this. Let me just tell you this. So I will tell you, I don't consider myself to be like a picky reader, picky reader, excuse me. But there are times when I pick up a book, even if it's critically acclaimed, and I'm reading it, and I'm like, yeah, it's just, not for me. I'm sure that even as a writer, you've read things that you didn't like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think that this is maybe one of those examples. The reason that I'm emphasizing this for the audience is just because, like I said, they're not pointing out any particular thing that I could maybe ask you about and be like, what do you actually think about that? But it just seems like they didn't necessarily like it. Okay, so now let's jump ahead here to some of the good stuff. Let's see. Somebody wrote, okay. I really enjoyed reading, this is a 5-star review. I really enjoyed reading this book. It was a really well done novel, and I enjoyed going through this journey. That's one. And then this is... Oh, actually, here's an even better one. So this book was very well written. The author did an excellent job of creating visuals of the surroundings and drawing you into the main character's world. This book was classified as a young adult novel, and the basis of the story, which is about coming of age of a young man, certainly matches that. However, so much of the book resolved around the time period the book is set in and the description of that setting, such as the music he listened to, the movies he watched, and the price of things, that it makes for a nice read and a short trip down memory lane for a lot of older readers too. I am not from New York, so the street names throughout the book meant very little to me, but I can see where it would add to the authenticity of the book for a reader that is from that area. And I will tell you this. Before I even have you comment, I just want to say this real quick up front. Mm-hmm. I started reading Game of Thrones. George R.R. Martin, have you read it?
No, I've got to read that.
Okay.
I've seen the entire series, but I need to read the book.
So I started reading Game of Thrones. Okay, the first one. It's I forget what even the name of the first book is called. Well, I mean, it's a Song of Ice and Fire, and then from there there's more. Yeah, so it's Song of Ice and Fire. And then from there there's more books. And then I also read The Hobbit. I started reading The Hobbit. I didn't finish either of those books. I've got to sit down and finish them. I started reading them when I was younger, but something that turned me off, even as an older person, when I was an adult and I started reading George R. R. Martin's Game of Thrones, was that they do this thing where it's like, he took a step, and the snow crunched on the ground, and the birds flew overhead, and there was an overcast, and it rained this morning, so there was some fog, and there was a caterpillar crawling across the leaf. And so too much of that is a turnoff. And a lot of people have said that about George R. R. Martin, so when you read that, get ready for that. Some of that can be a little bit of a turnoff. But I think that this was really well balanced. You know, we walked down the 172nd Street to 75th Avenue. I don't know, and there was some kids playing over by this statue of Alice in Wonderland, and it just drew you in, but it didn't do too much for me to be a turnoff. But anyway, I do just want to ask you. So, do you have any comments for those reviews?
Oh, no. I mean, I'm happy to be at the rating that I'm at. I would prefer that they were all 5 stars. But at the same time, I understood when I wrote it that it wasn't going to be everyone's cup of tea. But it's just to have enough people to enjoy the journey, to understand that, like just the... It's funny, when I've had conversations with people, as soon as I say Harlem, people say, "Oh no, it's really rough," you know something. And as I explained in the beginning of the book, I just happened to be born at the time that the New York City Housing Authority was put together, and they were trying this experiments of taking lower income families and then having the opportunity in these like 14-story buildings. There was a group of 10 of them, and creating parks around the buildings. There was grass, and it was trees, and it was beautiful. It was a brand new complex that was a small village onto itself.
Yeah.
And if kids, I would never have to cross the street if I didn't want to. I could run down like 2-3 blocks in the other direction down to a friend's house or something and come back. There were playgrounds on every side of the building, and it's like this became my norm. And this is in the middle of Harlem, and the whole thing about, well, there's tenements over here, there's downtrodden situations, or that's what I try to make people understand. I didn't go through it. I know we were lower income. I knew that later, but I never wanted for anything. I was dressing nice after my parents took us shopping. My father ran us away around places. I ran around places. And it's like, well, the surroundings that I was in, that people, they don't consider Harlem. Oh, there's gangs. And I saw no gangs. I saw nobody do. I didn't, it's like I go outside and I run around, have fun, my brother, friends. And so this is the people there, the misconception that when you say this one community, like when you say Beverly Hills, that just means that everything's beautiful and there's money flowing out of trees and all of this nonsense. So many different levels of people stereotyping things. That's just, it's entertaining to me. Once you get past the fact that when I say that I'm happy and then I was safe and nothing happened to me, and it's like, nothing happened. I don't mean nothing happened. I mean, in terms of, it was a gang of teenagers that came over and with a knife, and no.
I
like that.
Do you think, just one question before we go on to the next segment here of this video is, do you think that was because of the time period?
You know something that's strange? I had someone who had read my book and said, and he said to me he wanted to try to use me as a consultant for. He was doing another book on gang activity in Harlem around the 1950s.
Okay.
And And he was saying, did you experience this? Did you experience that? And I guess he thought there was another side of the book or something else he didn't understand, or maybe he just didn't read it and he said he had. But then I had to say to him, I don't think I'm the best person that you want to look at in terms of this gang activity. I know that because I read the names of, not that I know them off the top of my head, but there were gangs. There were situations going on in Harlem, Spanish Harlem, whatever. I just wasn't fortunate enough to have to deal with any of it. And it just proved to me that there were circumstances going on, that there were hardworking people that were fighting to just keep their areas clean, to have a decent income coming in, kids going to school, learning, building from there, and it was going on. And it's unfortunate that people think this one guy just thought that I would be his resource for gangs because I lived through. I know it was going. I know it was going on, but
that's not like the story. That's not the story that you're seeing in the book. Yeah.
Right. No. If you read this book, you wouldn't even think I was in the middle of a low income or whatever, because, like I said, every building, every blade of grass, every tree, everything was brand new. There were these linked chain fences surrounding the grass that people were constantly keeping up with and keeping neat. And if something fell over in the bench or a piece of wood broke, they would repair it. And it was just like, it's like being in a gated community or something. It was.
Yeah. All right. Well, and everybody can check all that out. Like I said, check all this out in the book, and we're getting a feel. If you're unsure and you're on the fence, I'm going to tell you, definitely go check out the book. Get the feel of this from what we've said, and then go check this book out, because this actually is really nice to see. It is nice to see, like, there was a side, because you do get a lot of those inner city stories where it's just like, oh, it was terrible, and it's nice to see that this is about the people who maybe didn't have that experience and maybe had a more positive one than you would normally think. Yeah. So, okay. So now here's the part that we talked about before. So we talked about this before we started the video. I said to Lloyd, Lloyd, you're gonna rate your own book, and in rating your own book, our audience is not gonna get a feel for the book necessarily, but they're gonna get a feel for you. So Lloyd, if you would please remember that we have 5 tiers. We have excellent, above average, average, below average, and bad. So if you had to give Reflections of L in Search of Self a rating, where would you put it on that scale?
I would very easily give it above average, four on the tier of 5, because I know that I in terms of systematically and chronologically, and I did everything with a purpose. It's not as simple as, okay, I'm telling this story, now this happened a year later, now this happened. Everything, these chapters are tied together, and the background of the 7 deadly sins, there's an underlying reason that can be seen in some of them. I even use some symbolic language for some of them, whereas if you know something about gluttony or whatever, you might know what that represents, but I don't make it a point to say directly, this means this. If you don't know, you don't know. You just enjoy it for what you think it means on the surface. I know it's not at the top of the scale of what I could write. Later on, I wanted to be that, and it's my results, my stars get a little higher as the books go on. Like I said, this I wrote back in 2011, and I was very happy with the finished product after a few drafts.
Okay.
But I worked hard enough on it, and I surprised myself. I can sit down and enjoy my book, as I did. I read this book yesterday and finished it this morning.
Okay, excellent. And like I said, so I am still reading it. I'm a very slow reader. I enjoy reading, but I am very slow at it. And it's great because now that you guys, if you're watching this video, you've heard Lloyd's voice. Now, when I read this book, this is Lloyd talking to me, and so I actually hear Lloyd's voice talking to me as I read the book, and it's an excellent voice to have talk to you, that's for sure. You do have a nice voice. Nothing weird, but you do have a nice voice. So all right, I think that's all we've got then. So here at Mike's After X Reviews, we want to thank you for watching and getting this far. Go check out the book. Like I said, Reflections of Elle in Search of Self, $3.99 for Kindle on Amazon, or 1 second, I'm just looking at to verify. Yeah, sorry, $2.99 on Kindle, $7.99 paperback. I'm a paperback guy.
I'll raise the price if you want to put it out there like that.
Yeah. Possibly the prices are going to increase, so get it now. Yeah, we want to say, from both of us, Lloyd A. Green and everybody behind the camera helping me and everybody else here at Mike's After X Reviews, we want to say thank you all for watching. God bless you all, and have a good day.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Okay. Don't forget to check me out on Twitch and join the Discord where you can voice chat with me while I live stream and you won't be recorded or anything on YouTube and Twitch, so that's pretty cool. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram. If you like to read, you can see my after action reports on my blog. And if you are interested, you can get some merch from my spring store. The links for everything are in the description below.